morning. Welcome to the April 4th, 2023 meeting of the Blue Earth County Commissioners. If you can, please rise and say a pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up is the agenda, Bob.
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda today.
I'll move the agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. All right, that passes. Next thing is a public comment from Christine Lawson. Public comment portion of the board meeting allows an opportunity for citizens to address the county board in a public setting. Ms. Christine Lawson has requested time on the agenda to address the county board today. This is a public meeting with a set agenda. Therefore, we ask the public to limit the comments to 5 minutes or less. At 5 minutes, there will be a hard stop. I have asked our county administrator to keep time and to provide you with a 1-minute warning. And remember, the county board will not take action on any comments during this period. Ms. Lawson, would you please step forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record?
Good morning. My name is Kristen Lawson. Address is 16698 563rd Avenue, Good Thunder, Minnesota.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Some of you were here on October 19th, 2021, when I was in last and spoke regarding this lovely place that's down the road, currently known as MFS Recycling, Compost, Stinky Place, Environmental Hazard. There's lots of things that we refer to that as. I won't tell you what we really refer to it as in our house. I was here last month when Dan Fitzsimmons spoke, and when I heard him having to waste his time picking up garbage from his field so he can actually proceed to make his living, it really irritated me even further, okay? When I was here, there was a lot of discussion regarding this issue, and I specifically stated I was not going to let this die because it already smells like death out there, and we don't need to impact everyone else further. The members that I had that were voting on it were Bill Anderson, Kip Brunder, Semtech, Miss Surdy, which Miss Surdy is not here, right? And then Chairman Anderson. Those are the ones that were here, so some of you may not be familiar with myself or my previous discussions with the board. Just to go ahead and state a few things, it was under a solid waste license for annual review, okay? I don't know who's doing the annual review. I don't know when the annual review is up, okay? This, like I said, it was done in October of 21 was the last time that I was here and spoke. Annually, it should have been reviewed in sometime in 22. I did not go back and sift through all of the minutes from all of the meetings to review when this was done. Since then, we've been informed of an ownership change. So the Fitzsimmons that were involved are no longer involved. Some of the changes that were supposed to be checked on and reviewed by the county, according to the annual review, was that they were supposed to complete a fencing repair. Well, the fencing repair was done for show. It's kind of like putting lipstick on a pig, okay? They repaired the front so it stops the garbage from blowing out, and it would be, I think it's the north side, and that was repaired, okay? The back side, which faces Mr. Fitzsimmons' property, it's just wide open. It's just posts out there. There's nothing to keep any of the garbage from blowing, and it's just open to his side. So when the wind blows that way, well, he's gonna get it all. So that's part of his issue, which that's obviously just a small part. The other side still has the overflow that was supposed to be cleaned up according to the approval of their license to be continued and under the annual review. So that still has a whole berm of overgrowth and whatever it is that they're dumping outside of that. Everything was supposed to stay contained to that confinement area, and that also has not been done. The county maintains that road ish poorly, very poorly. And I understand that we can't maintain the road, you know, all year long, but last spring, April actually, there was potholes large enough that you could just about lose a car in, okay? There was an accident that occurred because there was a young driver that lost control of their vehicle due to hitting these bumps. Some of it was inexperience, and ended up rolling their vehicle into the field, okay? And that's on the county stretch from County Road 10, well, and it was actually
1 minute remaining.
between County Road 10 and the recycling facility. So that's also not being maintained. I understand that that's, you know, the highway department or whoever I have to contact about that, which is fine. But these are still things that were supposed to be maintained and followed up on by the annual review, okay? I don't know when the change of ownership occurred. There was also supposed to be an owner on site at all times during the operating hours. I would like to know who that owner is that is now on site all day, every day. I would assume it's probably the pickup that doesn't even pull into the facility, that actually parks on the driveway, because they probably don't want that stuff traveling out on the road. Although we have to travel through it because the semis that come and go, tarped, not normally at all when they're leaving, because I assume that they're dumping. But there's been spillage out onto County Road 10, which also becomes a safety hazard. We've also had spillage along the road, which is also a safety hazard.
That's time.
I assume that this will be addressed eventually, and I will follow up via email for dates and other further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Lawson.
Thank you.
All right. Our next is on the DNR acquisition. Mr. Craig Soper. How do you pronounce your last name?
Superior.
Superior.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm Craig Superior. I'm a representative or the supervisor at the Area Fisheries Office over at Waterville. We manage Blue Earth County, and I'm also a resident of Mankato for that matter, so thank you for letting me get on the agenda today. In accordance with Minnesota statute, I'm here today to request your approval for a land acquisition that we are proposing and work with the landowners on. If you have a map there, the location of the land that we're proposing to acquire is on the shoreline of Idle Lake, just north of the city of Amboy. We already have a large aquatic management area managed by the section of fisheries. I'm the manager of this area, and it's about 123 acres. The area that we are requesting approval to purchase is it's entirely within the existing AMA. It was a homestead that was there from a person that had been living. They've recently moved off. The landowners approached us about acquiring the property, and we've worked with them and gotten to the point where we'd like to do that. The area is 8.32 acres. It's on the shoreline of Idle Lake. It's about 1,000 feet of shoreline of the lake, 8.32 acres. The land is managed currently in a natural state. There are a couple of possible wetland restorations within this aquatic management area, and in acquiring this parcel, we would likely try to work with the township to potentially even remove the township road that transects the parcel there now. It's noteworthy that the road is closed, and it has been for many years at the lake due to flooding over the years, and the road has been degraded, so it's been closed. I know the township had to work to elevate that road to the west a few years ago, and because they needed emergency access for this location. So I think this acquisition is supported by the township. We have about 2,300, so this would be about 3,000 feet of shoreline that would be open to public access for fishing on Idle Lake. If you have questions about the payment in lieu of taxes, that estimates to be about 0.75% of the appraised value. I believe it's public record now, but the appraised value for this came in at $200,000. The pelt payments would be estimated to be at $1,500. It's slightly less than the current taxable tax assessment, which is $1,746. Part of the reason is because the appraisal came at lower than what the assessed value is. Beginning in 2008, the PILT payments will be based on the current assessment. So if the assessment goes up, then those PILT payments would also go up. So do you have any questions?
Anybody have questions?
I don't. Pretty thorough. The only question I had was about the increase, but thank you.
Yes.
Okay. And we could bring this back to the board.
I would move approval of the recommendation.
Second it.
Got a motion, we've got a second. Any discussion? It looks good to me, I tell you.
Attached to another one, that's nice to see.
Just makes sense. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming
Thank you.
over.
All right. All right. Our next is County Ditch 79. Good morning.
Morning, good morning.
Our hearing
Right.
today is on the preliminary hearing on the proposed improvement to County Ditch 79. The purpose of this hearing is to consider the petition for the drainage project with all matters pertaining to the preliminary survey report. We will have the drainage staff go over the judicial documents.
Okay. The purpose of today's meeting, this is regarding Blue Earth County, Ditch 79. The watershed is approximately 480 acres in size and located in Judson Township. On September 9th, 2022, drainage staff received a petition for improvement to County Ditch 79. On October 11th, 2022, the Drainage Authority appointed engineer Mr. Charles J. Brandel of INS Group to prepare a preliminary survey for the improvement. Mr. Brandel filed a preliminary survey report with the Blue Earth County Property and Environmental Resources Department on February 6, 2023. At today's meeting, the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority, we asked the Drainage Authority to direct the engineer to prepare a detailed survey report and to appoint viewers to determine benefits and damages. The petition asks for separable maintenance to be paid for the entire system. Therefore, we are also asking the board to order the viewers to complete a redetermination as part of the improvement process. As far as jurisdictional documents, the hearing notice was posted and mailed to landowners on March 10th, 2023. A hearing notice was published in the Mankato Free Press on March 10th, 2023. And next thing I'll do is read the DNR report into the record. This is from the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, dated March 9th, 2023. It's addressed to the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority regarding the preliminary engineer's report for proposed improvement to Blue Earth County Ditch 79. Dear Blue Earth County Drainage Authority, thank you for the opportunity to review the proposed Blue Earth County Ditch number 79 project. We offer the following comments on behalf of the Commissioner of Minnesota Department of Natural Resources in accordance to Minnesota Statute 103E.255. Project summary. This project proposes to improve the tile drainage network in a 483-acre Blue Earth County Ditch number 79 watershed with more extensive tile work, with a more extensive tile network. The proposed project offers two options for improvement. Option 1 consists of replacing the main tile, branch 1 and branch 2. Option 2 includes the same tile improvements as option 1, but incorporates a maintained wetland into the system for storage. Public water outlet, water quality, fish and wildlife. The preliminary engineer's report identifies that this County 79 outlet is an unnamed water course that outlets into Minnesota River roughly 3 miles upstream of Judson. The unnamed water course is on the public waters inventory as a public water, an unnamed stream into the Minnesota River. The unnamed public water is also listed as a designated trout stream. The PER does not identify this stream as a public water trout stream and therefore does not assess the impacts of the public water on cold water stream accordingly. When describing the effects of the proposed project, the preliminary engineer's reports note that the storage pond or maintained wetland can offset the effects of the peak flow increases, makes the drainage system more hydrologically efficient, reduce levels of nitrogen and phosphorus, provide improved water quality, provide wildlife habitat, and work to meet the Blue Earth County WMP goals if implemented. For those reasons, the DNR strongly encourages the Drainage Authority to incorporate wetland storage into the project. Additionally, to meet the Blue Earth County WMP goals for reducing flows in the 2-year event, option 2 is required. For DNR to determine if the public waters permit application will be required or not, the following project information in addition to the hydrology requirements listed in the next section must be provided. Annual sediment and nutrient loading estimates per rates per and post project at the County 79 outlet. Thermal water temperature changes, looking at the discharge water temperatures pre and post project trends from June, September, including temperature ranges at the outlet upstream 100 yards above the County Ditch 79 outlet and downstream 100 yards of the County Ditch 79 outlet. Adequacy of the outlet determinations used for the project using option 1 with the wetland. Description of the maintained wetland. What are the functions and values? How does it differ from a flow-through basin installed in other drainage projects? Provide wetland retention times for the 2, 10, 25, 50, and 100-year events for 48-hour and 72-hour events. The project was modeled using ICM, a program still unavailable to Minnesota DNR. A limited review of the hydrology submitted with the PER has resulted in the following model comments and questions. Please respond to all of the requests. Excuse me. The memo states that one curve number was used throughout the 485-acre watershed. It is advised to split up the curve numbers into pervious and impervious areas. Impervious values for roads and buildings and the wetlands should be split into the model with a curve number of 98. Previous area values. The curve number above used the entire model area was 78. The NRCS curve numbers table shows curve numbers above 85 and 90 for agriculture, county C and D soils. Curve numbers should be adjusted accordingly. The SCS depth, something that is input into the model. If so, why was the default value not used? Please provide calculations for the 0.222 SCS depth. Add the 100-year storm event into the model scenarios. A critical duration storm should be modeled, including modeling for more prolonged storms such as the 48-hour and the 72-hour to determine if the critical duration storm. The report mentions that infiltration is double counted. Double counting infiltration is unacceptable as it could underestimate the volume of water during entering the system. The modeler should route the infiltration using the 2D surface into the drain tile to avoid double counting infiltration. Model results show decreases in peak discharges at the outlet for option 1 in the proposed conditions. Typically, increasing the drain tile diameter would increase the peak flows at the outlet. Please explain this modeling result. Most model results show decreases in the outlet velocities for options 1 and 2. At these decreases, primarily due to the slope of the change in the pipe section at the downstream end of the model, please provide a profile view of the 2 pipe sections out in the model using both existing and proposed conditions for option 1 and 2. Inlet capacity at The surface intake should be considered in the model. Additional items that should be submitted into the model for full review include time of concentration calculations, detailed calibration methods, graphs showing the velocities over time at the outlet pipe and 200 feet downstream in the channel of the system, outlets 2 for all model scenarios, model output files and out files, total infiltrated volume at the model scenarios, total water at the in cubic feet discharges excuse me, through the outlet pipe for all model scenarios, DEMs for the or TIF files for the existing and proposed surfaces. Conclusion. Overall, this project is just one of several drainage improvement projects that have or is planned to occur within the Minnesota River watershed. The cumulative impacts of this and other similar projects must be considered and mitigated. We appreciate that this project proposes an option to incorporate some storage, and we hope this actual wetland storage and we hope this is actual wetland storage rather than just a flow-through stormwater pond. Suppose this project does require a public water permit. In that case, effective mitigation for thermal changes altering hydrology and water quality issues will become requirements of the permit process. So we encourage a positive effort to mitigate these potential impacts early in the project review process. We encourage the Drainage Authority and the project proposers to implement projects and management practices to mitigate these projects. Added hydrology and water quality impacts within the watershed. Soil health practices and other BMPs could store and improve the evapotranspiration of water in the landscape while supporting sustainable farmland and healthy watersheds. Cover crops, cover rotations, residue management could increase soil organic matter and soil water and nutrient holding capacity. These and other practices are detailed in Chapter 5 of the Minnesota Public Drainage Manual. Restoring drained and farmed wetlands would add storage, evapotranspiration, and habitat within the area. These practices would help mitigate heavy rains and help store, infiltrate, and evapotranspirate water. Please send responses to this letter and revised preliminary engineer's report, meeting minutes, findings of fact, and any order issued by the Drainage Authority regarding to the proposed improvement to the into the DNR when they become available. Please submit these documents or any questions about this letter to the regional drainage email. That's at regionfordrainagednr@stateofminnesota.us. Sincerely, Todd Colander, DNR Southern Region EWR South District Manager. And that's it for jurisdictional documents in the DNR report.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to accept the affidavits into a legal record?
So moved.
Second?
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Passes. We will now hear from the engineer. Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning.
Chuck.
I have this is Chuck Brando with ISG. I have Jacob Mueller with me. He helped with this report. We're going to go through a summary of the preliminary engineer's report. Like Mr. Austinson stated, we're at the PER stage. This is a midpoint in the process for the engineer to state is the project feasible and to get input from landowners and the DNR and others. This is not a final approval of the project. So, and Craig went through the timeline, depending on if this would move forward. Potentially this could be a project that would be looked at next year. So, just a few things on existing conditions. It's a 500-acre watershed, fairly flat watershed, and the primary reason we're here with an improvement is we did look at repair options, and we're matching essentially the same size that we could with a repair at the outlet, but because of depth and broken tile an improvement just gave us more leeway to go deeper and to reroute. So we did look at this as a repair versus improvement, but the improvement route gives us a little bit more depth to make this system more up to today's standards. Go
So,
ahead.
just going a little bit into the history of the system, it was established in 1946. At that time, all three tile lines were established, being the main, branch 1, and branch 2. No major repairs have occurred since that date. All the tiles are original, with the exception of an improvement that occurred sometime after that, in which roughly 500 feet of tile was extended from the original system tile outlet up into the unnamed stream where it currently outlets. A little look into the existing watershed. You can see towards the outlet where the cursor is. That little section there is that 500 feet I just described. Working up, it starts as a 22-inch tile. The main line follows the cursor, goes all the way to the east, and ends as a 10-inch. Prior to that, in that low area, branch 1 splits off, goes to the north. That goes from a 12-inch to an 8-inch. And then branch 2 goes to the south, picks up those two properties to the south there. Looking a little bit at the topography of the watershed, there's a few good things to note here. Near the outlet, original to the system, before that 500 feet of tile was installed, there was a grassed waterway. You can still see the remnants of that in the topography. So there's a very streamlined and steep channel there in the existing condition. Looking upstream, there's a very low area, a big depression. That'll be important to remember as we go forward. And then further to the south, you'll notice on branch 2, we don't gain a lot of height. It stays very, very flat, and there's some low areas up there, which is also good to know when we start discussing tile grade.
Yeah, there's not a lot of color change. You can tell it's fairly flat in a lot of areas.
So part of the preliminary survey, and just to gain an insight into the system, we completed a drone survey. This gave us aerial imagery in the fall to kind of gain insight into what's happening on the system. As you can see on the top right, it's a little small maybe for most to see, but there's, at the end of that old grass waterway, there's a berm. You can see on the top right portion, that grass waterway leads up to that. And then downstream in the bottom right corner of the picture is where the system outlets into the stream. On the main picture, this goes back to that large depressional area we discussed earlier. You can see the two kind of angular grass brown areas. That's actually where the tile is extending above the surface of the ground. So there's areas where the tile is actually above ground at this point. So, and you can see the crop stress as well. Additionally to that drone survey, also to gain insight into the condition of the system, the actual infrastructure, we completed some televising in November of 2021. This is beneficial to see where there's issues and also to gain information as to what the elevation of the system is. As you can see, the system is failing significantly in a lot of areas, cracked tile. This really impacts the capacity of the system and even its ability to transmit flow, because, I mean, in some cases, the tile is completely collapsed. So looking forward into the existing capacity, in general, the system is slightly below the recommended half-inch per day drainage coefficient. Being that the system is in a state of disrepair, the actual drainage coefficient that the landowners are receiving is significantly less than that. So that's also good to note. Going forward, back to what Chuck was saying earlier, a repair was considered initially, and with the ability to legally repair up to the next available size. So in this case, a lot of the initial system was 22 inches in size. That's not manufactured anymore, so we'd be legally able to go up to a 24. And that does...
Yeah, Minnesota drainage statute allows you to go up to the next available size, so a repair could be at a 24-inch tile.
Yeah, so we would get adequate drainage capacity, but with a repair, we still wouldn't get adequate cover. In a lot of places, it'd be little as 2.5 feet, which would just open opportunity for future and more prompt failure of the new system. So when we start looking at proposed design, a lot of things we discussed kind of control what we design. So first and foremost, we look for 5 feet of cover. This allows a deeper system that doesn't get impacted by compaction as much from equipment, provides a more adequate outlet for private tile. Barring any Storage enhancements, we look for a 1/2 inch per day drainage coefficient. That's just NRCS standard for this area. Thirdly, we look for an adequate outlet. Basically, we just want to ensure that we're not having any adverse impacts on the receiving waters, and that's where modeling comes into play. And lastly, we look at alternative BMPs. These could come in the form of water quality inlets, storage, wetlands, and other practices that could be implemented. The wetland and water quality intakes were looked at and are included on option 2. So starting with option 1, it's a pretty straightforward tile improvement. We're really keeping the same tile size for the majority of the system. You know, we start out at a 24-inch and neck down all the way to a 10-inch on the main line. Branch 1 starts as a 12 and ends as an 8, exactly as branch 1 is currently. Branch 2 starts as a 12-inch, as it is currently. The only major difference is how we're treating the outlet. So looking forward to the next slide. Or I guess there'll be one after, but you can see the drainage coefficients here. We're either looking for a 1/2 inch per day drainage coefficient or matching the basic coefficient. So giving them what they already had or modifying it to a 1/2 inch per day. What we saw with this option is very little impact on peak outlet flow rates, reductions in some cases, and larger velocity reductions to the receiving waters. Here's just a view of the outlet plan and profile. You can see, so right where that red line is, it actually hides the berm. It's right under that though. But a closer look at that will show kind of the reasons we're seeing these massive reductions in velocity and outlet flow rates. You can see on the very left portion that existing tile is coming down at a 10% grade, so it's exceedingly steep. It drains the entire watershed and picks up that grassed waterway. So basically you just have a lot of flow that's flowing excessively fast down that pipe. In the proposed condition, we'd implement a ground structure. Basically this slows down any water from the watershed coming in, provides a back wall, some energy loss for that water coming down the pipe, as well as a shallower, less steep pipe that's receiving all that surface water from the grass waterway. So that was one way that we looked to decrease any impacts from the proposed system.
And then following that back, the improvement would gain depth on the existing system. As the original system followed the ground, we'd gain depth, which would allow us that 5 feet of depth in that lower area. So, this type of structure, this is similar to other projects we've done in the Mankato area, coming down the ravines, dropping and reducing velocities. It's just a good practice. And we're actually going to be meeting with the SWCD later this week on multiple projects to look at BMPs in this watershed, including if there's any funding for practices like this and other practices in the watershed.
So looking at option 2, there's a few differences you can see. All the upstream tile, you can see branch 1, branch 2, and the upstream extents of the main on the right-hand portion of the map are the same size as they were in option 1. Working down, there is in this proposed option 2, we look to utilize that low basin area into a storage wetland area. And to do that, we would route the mainline tile around as an 18-inch tile. Downstream of that proposed wetland enhancement, we would have a 24-inch tile. This would be sized at around 0.4 inches per day. So a little reduced as to the standard, but this is utilized to maximize storage in that proposed wetland area. From what we see in here, we achieve that 1/2 inch per day for all the upstream extents, so they're still getting the adequate drainage capacity. And downstream of that, we're reducing that to maximize storage. So everyone's still getting that adequate drainage capacity while maximizing storage. And from that, we still see those reductions in peak flows and velocities. Looking a little closer into the storage enhancement, there'd be some scraping in the existing low area, and acquisition around that to kind of maintain the flooding through the acquisition. During high flow events, when it bounces past its maintained water level, and that entire system would be picked up on the north end by the main line through a riser.
As part of the project, we're proposing to abandon the existing system, and thus we would look for separable maintenance.
So Yeah, as Chuck said, we'd be looking for separable maintenance for this project. Looking forward into option 1. The total separable maintenance for this system would be around $760,000. Option 1 improvement, which again was just the straight tile improvement, would be $860,000 roughly, with a net cost of $100,000.
These costs are based off last year's bid numbers. We have seen a little bit more competitive numbers this year. We did not update the cost estimate at this point, but this is based off last year, which was one of the highest bidding years we've had. But so just looking at this, the cost to repair versus the cost to improve there's not a big difference. That's why we went to that improvement route, to get adequate depth on the system, but still matching that same tile outlet. That's why there's not a big difference in cost.
Exactly. So option 2, again, separable maintenance doesn't change. It's around that $760,000. Costs for the main line are slightly reduced, but we do incur a lot of cost through establishing that storage basin. That includes earthwork, land acquisition, etc. So the full improvement cost for that would be about $1,070,000, with a net cost of a little over $300,000. Again, that would include all of that cost to implement that storage basin.
So we did do a detailed hydraulic model, and some of the DNR comments went very detailed into that hydraulic model. I do suggest that we go through the model with DNR staff if we move forward, and instead of us covering all of those little items today, we could address some of those, and I think we've got a good response and some potential changes. But we did model the 5, 10, 25-year, and 50-year event. That is what its statute is required for a 24-hour rain event. The DNR report does ask for some additional modeling information. Per my discussion with Blue Earth County staff, that we wouldn't do that unless the board directs us to do that additional work. So it's not a huge push to model a couple more events or events past the 24-hour event, but I would ask, if this moves forward, if you give us a yes or no on that, because that's some additional work that's not required by statute. As we look at the hydraulic model, this is inundation time over days. So red is 4 days, yellow is 3 days, orange is 3.5, green is 2. When you look at crop stability, anything under 2, typically the crops can survive. Anything over that, they're either dead, they won't survive, or they'll be reduced yields. So this is the existing condition, assuming it's repaired, and here's the proposed condition. So there is a significant difference in that. Here is option 2, showing the wetland area. And I know it wasn't addressed in the PER, but we did look at inundation times and how long water would sit. With the trout stream upstream, in both options we have less detention time, which means the water's not going to heat up as much, which will have cooler water, which helps the trout stream. So I think we can go over that with DNR staff in between the PER and FER. Here's the 50-year. You can see significant crop loss, and you saw some of that in the pictures from last year, and then the change on the 50-year event, so for option 1 and option 2. With the outlet changes, by dropping flow down, modifying the outlet structure, and essentially matching the same pipe size, we can closely match the peak flow rates coming out, which is something that over the past 10 years we've been working with DNR staff, and that's been a goal of trying to do that for our improvement projects. So we feel that both option 1 and option 2 are viable options. Option 2, I think we would probably need some outside funding to make that potentially work, and we would need landowner approval. So moving forward, we'll look at both of those, but it is my opinion that both options would meet the requirements of the statute. A big significant improvement at the outlet would be velocities. By dropping this down, we'd have less erosion in the ravine. So we think that is a good change in allowing kind of that flexibility with the improvement. So, we did go over some construction practices with landowners. We also went over multi-purpose drainage management, which is a requirement of the statute. In this system, there is potential for some storage near the outlet. Obviously, the storage that we're proposing under option 2, and then there are areas within the watershed that could be controlled drainage, and then the entire watershed could use other practices. Those are landowner decisions with no-till, strip-till. That's something that's always there from a multi-purpose drainage management perspective. So I'm not going to go over all the DNR comments, but the 3 main ones. We feel that the project will reduce nutrient and sediment because we have a broken tile system that's coming out of the ground. We'll put it in the ground and we'll reduce the velocity coming out of the system. We can do something with the structure at the outlet that could maybe even potentially reduce more erosion. Like I said, we're going to meet with the SWCD later this week. There's some potential funding that could go along with that, modifying that structure. So adequacy of outlet, we feel the peak flow rates are being reduced, but I would like to go over and have a meeting with DNR staff to go over the modeling requirements and make sure we're on the same page for that. This chart here in the bottom shows duration of flooding times, and you saw that on the map. We feel that we could reduce temperatures, and that's something we can go over with DNR staff also with the trout stream in more detail. So with that, we recommend that the project move forward. At this point, we'd like both options still, at least on the table for review. See what we can get for funding and have that flexibility. Meet with DNR staff on the modeling, but we feel the project is cost-effective, practical, feasible. Again, the cost difference between a repair and improvement aren't very much. If the improvement wouldn't go through, a repair is going to have to happen. So the project is cost-effective and feasible, but I feel the adding depth will be a better project and a tile system that's going to last for a longer time than a shallower one. So with that, we'll open it up for questions. It's a lot here.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions.
All right, thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
All right. Thank you for that report. At this time, we'll open this hearing for a public comment. This hearing is being recorded, so please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to 5 minutes. I will ask Mr. Meyer to please keep time, and he will give you a 1-minute warning, basically. So, is there anybody wishing to make comments on County Road 79?
County ditch.
County Ditch 79, I'm sorry. Please put
Engineers
your
out there.
name and address, please.
Morning, I'm Brian Ingalls. Need my address.
Please.
50243 224th Street, Lake Crystal.
Thank you.
And I'm here representing Phyllis Emily. She is my landlord, I'm her tenant. And our only concern with 79 is she owns the northwest 75 acres in that watershed. And it's come to our attention that if you look on page 2 of the ISG handout, the elevations that are in yellow, they may get classified as a higher determination. We're paying more for the project. And our issue is that we just want the board and the viewers to know that Phyllis's land is only 1,000 feet away from the outlet. So for example, if she gets assessed $100,000 for this county project to be a part of it, when we could do it privately for much less, I just want the viewers to take that into consideration. And I guess that's all I got for you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to make comments on County Ditch 79? And for the last time, is there anyone else wishing to make comments for County Ditch 79? Hearing no further comments, I will close the public comment portion of the hearing. Can I get a motion and a second to accept the findings in order to appoint the viewers and complete a detailed survey report?
So moved.
Second?
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have a few questions, Mr. Chair. Well, first of all, can you answer Ryan's question, Chuck?
Yeah,
Or
I can,
have
and
any-
we did have a landowner meeting
Yep.
a couple weeks ago, and I did tell him to make sure he puts that on the record.
Okay.
That when the viewers look at this, how close this property is to the outlet, there's factors that the viewers factor in,
Sure.
how close they are to a tile, land types.
Yep.
It is a mass appraisal, but that's, if you
Okay.
move forward,
So
meet
you'll
with the
keep
viewers.
an eye on that
review it.
for us?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
we'll keep an eye on that.
Okay, and then back to your comment about the 100-year study. I do struggle with having the ditch system pay for that. So I don't know what the thoughts are of the rest of the board, but, you know, our statutory requirement is up to the 50-year, is my understanding, and so they're asking for another study. I don't know exactly what the cost of that is, but that would be burdened by the landowners at this point, correct? Because the DNR won't pay for it, is my understanding.
Yeah, so when we run a detailed hydraulic model, we run a certain number of events, because that's
Right.
what the statute requires. We'd have to run more, so it's a little
Right.
bit extra time, a little bit extra data, and to go over that. It's not significant, but again,
It's,
I'm not,
we're biting into it though, every
We're
time.
biting into it, yep.
Just every
Yep.
time seems like we have another requirement, we have another requirement, we have another requirement, and that's on the landowners. So I don't necessarily have a problem with it at this point, but I just want to make sure we're all aware that just kind of keeps on happening, and we need to,
I'm concerned that the DNR keeps on asking for more than what the state law requires. But in approximate, how much would it cost?
I would say we're in the thousands, in a couple $1,000s to run some additional events, is what, because we'll rerun the model with some modifications based on the input that we got, so it's not a significant
you have all the
amount of dollars.
groundwork done.
What's that?
You have all the main work done, you
Yes.
just got to run the
It's
model.
all set up, we just gotta run it again, and we'll make some modifications, and like I said, I would like to meet with DNR staff and just make sure we're on the same page with some of those inputs, so.
Thank you. Any other discussions? Kevin?
A couple things. One, I appreciate the landowners looking at the options so we can get this deeper in the ground, and then also have the structure to reduce that velocity and outlet the water in at a much lower, because we all know moving water sometimes moves soil and sediment at the same time. As one of the AMC Association of Minnesota Counties representatives on the drainage work group, which is a group that meets monthly, talking about legislative changes and things like that. I've learned just in my short 2 years that it's not easy coming up to consensus statewide on statutes and things like that. So my first question is, and I'm assuming, but I'm still going to ask it anyway, we're doing everything in this report or in our projects that's required by statute, correct?
Yes.
And as we have others that ask for things that are not required and things like that, we've got the statutes for a reason. Those have been worked through. We're currently looking at some changes, for next year and things like that with the work group through consensus building. I'm not interested in providing things we're not required to by statute. If they're important, let's go through the process and do that. So I would just urge and appreciate, and I see we've got viewers here that are listed in the findings in order. And the one slide I've seen when they've had landowner meetings, that is the most important slide to me, says that the landowners do not wait until the hearing to get involved in the redetermination of benefits. There'll be landowner meetings again through the ROB process, correct?
Yes.
And I would just urge everyone to be at those, because it's a lot easier to have those discussions at the landowner meeting levels than waiting to the last minute of a hearing and things like that. So I certainly support all of this, but I don't support anybody paying for anything that's not required by statute through drainage law. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? With that, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I would also move that we appoint the viewers for their determination of benefits.
Great.
Second?
Got a motion and a second to appoint the viewers. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. All right. And order for the redeterminant of benefits?
You just completed that, Mr. Chair, so
All
I
right.
think you're
All
done
right.
with this hearing.
Okay. Sounds good. And that concludes the ditch 79. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, now we got County Ditch 47 and Judicial Ditch 29 determination of benefits.
The purpose, Blue Earth County Ditch 47, the watershed is approximately 2,100 acres in size and located in Cambria and Butternut Townships. Blue Earth County Judicial Ditch 29 is approximately 2,500 acres in size and located in Judson and Butternut Townships. We are in the process of completing redeterminations for all ditches in Blue Earth County. County Ditch 47 and 29 are near or adjacent to County Ditch 79. Since we have ordered the redetermination of benefits for 79, the cost of implementing redeterminations for benefits for 47 and 29 will be reduced. At today's meeting of the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority, we asked the Drainage Authority to appoint viewers to redetermine benefits and damages to both 47 and 29. And on point here, we also received a petition on 29 that would involve probably appointing viewers to do redeterminations anyway. So the timing on this is just works really well. So we probably would have been we were asking for a redetermination on 29, even if we hadn't been working on 79. So
Okay. Great.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, the same. All right, that passes. All right.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you
thanks,
very
Craig.
much. And the Ponderosa landfill cell construction. Michael?
Good morning, Michael. Morning, Michael. Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Michael Stolberger, Director of Property and Environmental Resources for Blue Earth County. I will be taking you through tab 4 of your packet right now, page 134. This is cell construction for the Ponderosa landfill. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? So let's actually go to page 135 and we'll look at it as we talk about what we're proposing or what will need to happen at the landfill. We will be adding phase 7A, which is the saddle. It's actually an extension of the saddle. If you'll remember, in 2019, we last approved a construction project for the start of the saddle. This area will encompass about 2.2 acres of lined landfill cell. It'll have eventual capacity in the range of 422,000 cubic yards. We hope to start the construction here very soon in May with cell completion towards the 1st of July, around the 4th of July holiday. Those are, of course, based on our availability of the contractor, which it does sound like that contractor will have availability early this season. That's critical for us because we are getting very close to running out of capacity at the landfill right now. This project will cover all of the related site and infrastructure improvements. It also includes some additional work that once we mobilize the crew for this project, it's cost effective for us to have them move some soil and whatnot as well for us. The construction design actually allows us to get more bang for our buck because working off of that saddle allows us to fill at a higher rate than normal cell construction projects. So we will get additional cubic yardage airspace based on that liner size. So that's helpful for us as well. What we're looking for today is board action to approve the county administrator and myself to enter into agreements with the contractor and our design engineers for the cell construction as necessary for the project. That is allowable under Minnesota Statutes 400.04, which allows landfill projects and landfill services to go through a bidding process, but not the typical bidding process due to the very specific and technical nature of those sorts of projects. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, that is the item before you today.
All right, looking for a motion.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Not for me. Pretty straightforward. We need space.
Sounds good. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you very much. Motion passes.
Thank you, Michael.
And running right along, we're going to go to Public Works.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
Before anything, congratulations on your son's.
Thank you.
I mean,
Made the
it's nice
papers
they
again.
made, big front page and
nice article.
top of the article.
I didn't even look at the paper until you texted me and told me about it, so I appreciate the heads up on it.
No,
Yeah, it's nice to
you got a
see,
lot to be proud of. That's really great.
We're excited. Thank you for that. All right, the first action item of consideration of the Public Works agenda today is approval of bids for our 2023 bituminous overlays. This is for stated project 007-611-014 and others. That includes overlays on CASA 11, 12. So they'll be overlaying the projects from last year, the full reconstruction projects, putting on the final wearing course on those contracts. I'm sorry, those project segments under separate contract. And then as well, overlaying CASA 15 east of the city of St. Clair, CASA 27 and 28 south of Eagle Lake, and CASA 49. The engineer's estimate was $2,857,000, $466.55. The apparent low bid is Minnesota Paving and Materials at a bid of $2,984,547.60, about 4.5% over the engineer's estimate. So prices are up, but I guess I'm happy that our estimate came in fairly close to the bid prices. As you know, we try to geographically stage these projects so they're all in kind of a similar area. So aside from CASA 11, which is west of west of Mankato, the rest of the projects are kind of in that eastern portion of the county. With that being said, I have provided you the project bid abstract that shows the detailed breakdowns. We did not observe any bid prices that were out of line from what our expectations and our estimates were. So with that in consideration, I would recommend award of the 2023 bituminous overlays to Minnesota Paving Materials.
Looking for.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? It looked, I looked at every single one of the bids and looked like it was consistently
Yeah,
Minnesota Paving. I mean, it was.
they were well under the two other bids, with Central Specialties being 13.5% over and Yulin Brothers being 21% over.
So, all right. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same? Passes. Go ahead.
Okay. The next action item for consideration is bids for our 2023 traffic painting and striping. I believe last year we had discussed that there used to be 3 different contractors. We were then down to 2. This year we're only down to 1. Sir Lines Lot purchased Traffic Marking Specialties.
Oh.
So they are the only player in the game now that really service our area and bid our work. So we will continue to look in the future years for additional bidders to try to solicit interest, but they have to come from a substantial distance away to do our work. when they are here, they're here for about 2 to 3 weeks at a time over a couple of different intervals. So we did see, consistent with what other counties were seeing, significant price increases this year. This is the same quantity of striping that we had bid last year. This is approximately a little bit over half of all of our lane miles in the county. So restriping well over half the county. So as you guys know, striping has become more and more emphasized for safety because of the reliance of it for just the traffic reliance on the visual aspects of it. But also now we're seeing connected autonomous vehicles are starting to rely on quality traffic striping for safety measures that are included with the newer technology in newer vehicles. With that being said, the previous bid last year was $248,320, and Survivance Lot was a little bidder then. This year, it's inflated to $353,445, representing about a 42% increase in the bid price. Being frustrated with this, I did have staff do some research because I don't like that type of increase. To purchase a similar truck consistent with what the contractors use.
Do you know I was going to ask this question?
Seven or so years I've figured it out, right? So to purchase a truck similar to what the contractors use is about $355,000. So that's a similar model and type.
New?
New, correct.
Okay.
Yep. I don't know how readily available used market would be on something like that. So we did research that. So that's piece one of what could we do it ourselves. Piece two is the paint materials, and because we would only be buying for Blue Earth County, we obtained a quote from Diamond Vogel, who is one of the providers for the striping paint. The paint materials alone, were we to purchase them ourselves and without the discount that maybe these massive contractors get that stripe half the state, would be $299,185.
Just what they wanted.
1 year?
Just for the material.
1 year?
For 1 year's worth of striping paint.
Oh my.
So, you tell me you want me to buy a truck and paint, I'll do it, but I just wanted to
Well,
share
then
with
you
you
gotta put the
cost.
staff in there.
Then you gotta hire staff to
And
do
it takes
that.
staff about a month, I think we could do it with our own forces, but it would take them out of doing other things for well over a month while they work on this activity. So with that being said, I'm open for discussion, but I would probably anticipate recommending the award of the contract to Survivance Lot.
Only question I have is, there's a talk between the 4-inch and the 6-inch. So are we talking a 4-inch at this time instead of the 6-inch?
We would only
Because a
put
lot
down
of
the
them are.
6-inch in areas where we had 6-inch previously, otherwise the standard is the 4. Yes, the 6-inch is desirable from even more safety just because it's higher visibility. But we would see this bid likely go up by a third.
I understand, I'm just wondering how that, because I know the safety aspects and of course, when you're talking about autonomous vehicles and stuff, the 6-inch obviously is more out there and it doesn't fade away as fast and a lot of things, but cost factor is huge.
Is the struggle, yes,
Yeah,
and with the
kinda hard.
number of miles that we have, that's why we've just stuck with the 4-inch stripe, aside from areas where we've done 6-inch stripes on the Highway Safety Improvement Program projects. We try to remember to put those back as 6-inch. However, we have not been adopting it county-wide. If it's something that the board would like to see, I'd certainly be supportive of it, but
I think it was-
Adopting, once it's 6, keeping it at 6?
correct. Or taking them.
So
as
have
stripe.
we done some that we originally were 6-inch and then we've gone down to 4-inch?
We only would have done 6-inch striping, generally speaking, on Highway Safety Improvement Program
Right.
projects, which were scattered throughout the county. And really, the grant is for the life of the markings. And the struggle is, obviously, as we know, with plows grinding over, this has been a terrible year on paint markings, with the amount of plowing we've had.
Terrible year for everything.
And the freeze thaw we've seen. So we've been putting down latex paint. Latex paint's generally good for a year or two compared to an epoxy paint that should have like a 5+ year life. Well, the reason we do latex is because the epoxy, if you get 5 years out of it, you're doing pretty well. The last couple of years, it starts to fade and is beat up by the plows. And it's also much more expensive. So we can freshen those up every year with the latex for about the same cost.
Very good.
I guess where we've got 6-inch, I guess I want us to think about
Preserving.
what the reasons are for not maintaining
Yeah.
6-inch.
Yep, and I believe, I'll check with staff, but I believe our intent is where we have 6-inch and we've done it, then we would want to put 6 inches back down.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you.
That was the only question I had. Open for a motion?
I would move.
Got a motion
Second.
and a second? Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
I just do want to circle back around a little bit to
Yeah.
doing it ourselves. I don't think you take it off the table at this point because it's just something we need to keep talking about if the prices keep increasing, but it might be something we talk to other counties about. Try to get a bigger quantity of paint bought. We can certainly share a truck, I would
Exactly.
think.
Yeah.
Share, so I don't think it's off the table, even though you didn't come up with a good number today, but I think you should still move forward.
I shared this information this morning with my colleagues in District 7, the other county engineers, and we are meeting next Wednesday, and I added this as a discussion topic.
I think it'd be.
One of the other questions I had is, would there be a possibility for, I think I know the answer to it, but would there be a possibility that MnDOT, with their striping truck, could help the counties or rent us the truck? So I'm going to ask that question as well. I think I know the answer of them doing it for us because I think they share one truck with 3 districts. So when you think about the time it takes to do all their miles, the availability of it and the timing would likely not work out from my real brief conversation with the district engineer about that.
Well, if you could split
We
a
could
truck
do it
with
in the
3.
winter when it's not this.
Have the plows put it down, they're out there anyway.
But I like the idea of, you purchasing a truck with other counties. I mean, we could, with the 5 connecting counties in Blue Earth County, we could purchase a truck and use that. I mean, and then share the labor and stuff. But that's something to talk about in the future. And I think that's not a bad idea. I mean, I think we could probably make that into a lower priced thing than what we're paying, even though we've had no complaints with Sir Lions-a-Lot.
Yep.
So
It's a catchy name, so you can.
Well, probably more importantly, though, we get the quantity higher, so the price
To
comes
see if
down on
we
the
could
quantity, because the truck
get a
is.
deal on the paint.
Yeah, that paint is mind-boggling. but
Yeah.
That's for the paint. The
We
glass
gotta get
paints was astronomical.
Do some more research on that, try to get
we
some
got a motion
contracts.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you very much. Maintenance gravel haul.
Yes, we received bids as well for our maintenance gravel hauling, 40,000 tons. And then we received 3 bidders this year. So in previous years, we had Max Johnson and R&E Enterprises, which are shown at the bottom of the spreadsheet. This year, we received the bid from W. Lorenz Company, and they were the apparent low bidder at 22 cents per ton mile, as well as having a lower loader price. So total contract price of $208,600 compared to the other bids of $247,700 and $267,600. We've not worked with them before on this contract. They had done a crushing contract for us last year, and it was done satisfactorily. With that being said, I would recommend award of the gravel hauling contract to W. Lorenz Company.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. And that passes.
Okay.
You've got some information items.
I do. Project updates, County State Aid Highway 16 from the LeSueur River to Cassah 90 project. The contract has been awarded and approved to RG Construction Company out of Marshall, Minnesota. They've worked for us on past projects. Oh, it's probably been 5 or 6 years. County State Aid Highway 1, the original turnback project, they had completed that and had done a segment of Cassah 12 as well. Lost my place here. The trees were all removed prior to April 1st. Shop drawing approvals are underway. Utilities will begin relocating soon. Now that things are starting to warm up a little bit. Construction will likely not begin until spring load restrictions have been lifted, which we would anticipate being mid to late May. And we have a fall 2023 completion date on that project. So that's the segment from the LeSueur River up to Cassah 90 intersection. CASA 13 from US 169 to County State Highway 1. The final plans have been approved by MnDOT. Right-of-way acquisitions are moving along actually fairly well. Jack has been meeting with a lot of folks out there. I would venture to say we're probably 60% plus completed on right-of-way acquisitions. We'd anticipate he's probably got another month or two on those acquisitions. And after we complete that, we still have the fact that we don't have 50% bridge bonding for the contract that we would generally want to obtain for that large of a bridge. So we're going to keep an eye on what the legislature does. Hopefully a large bridge bonding package comes out. It's looking optimistic, and that we would get 50% of the bridge cost, would be 1.5 million of the total project cost we're anticipating. And it'd be possible that we could bid the project in late summer or early fall for 2024 construction. There may be some opportunities that way so that the contractor could take the trees out obviously over the winter. You could have the utility relocations underway, and also perhaps the contractor would want to stage the contract that they could start on the bridge in winter and do some of the demolition and piling and abutments and piers during the winter months and get that completed. So we'll see. It would give them some flexibility if we went that route. So stay tuned. CASA 26 from North Riverfront Drive, which is our County State Highway 57, to Minnesota Highway 22. Plans are approved. Project is being advertised for an April 26th bid letting, which would result in May 2nd County Board of Award or consideration of award. There's one strip of permanent right-of-way needed yet to complete the trail west of the Wickersham campus. And we're including a contract provision in the case that we're unable to obtain that strip of land in time to complete it with the road portion of the project. We can complete construction of the road within the existing right-of-way that we have, plus the other parcels that we have obtained the easement and other right-of-way. This strip we really need to fit the trail. So if we're unable to get it in time, we will move forward with the road project, and we'll include a provision in there that the contractor may have to come back the subsequent construction season to complete that remaining 1,000 feet of trail. So completing the remainder of the trail would still provide a connection for the rest of the neighborhood to the Country Club Drive, which then can also connect with some of the city trails farther to the south. So we would try to get as much of it done as possible. The trees were also removed prior to April 1st. So we're excited to see that project move forward. CASA 11 from the West County line, CASA 6 plans are at about 75%. We'll be scheduling a public meeting following the spring planting season. Now that we're into April, we don't want to book anything for probably the next month and a half. But we're getting to a point where I think we could share that with the public and get their feedback so we could finalize project plans and start buying right away. County State Highway 82 from south of Hoffman to Fair Street. Project kickoff meeting was held with Stonebrook Engineering, our consultant design engineer. Survey work is wrapping up now that the snow is melting, and they're just really getting going on that, so we don't have a lot to report. They're kind of assembling all of the data and starting to lay things out. The CASA 15 bridge, the concrete box culvert order has been placed. We're working on finalizing plans for that. That'll be submitted to state aid for approval. We would anticipate bidding that in the coming months for construction sometime in late August or September when the box culvert actually arrives, and we have more certainty on that.
Is that a shorter time than, I mean, it used to?
It's better than it was last year. It's still not good.
I think it's still bad.
We ordered it in February, and we're not going to see it until mid to late August. So it's still a very substantial lead time. It makes it challenging to get those out. We used to put a box culvert bid out in like September, if you may recall. We would do a couple of box culverts at the end of the year just as kind of wrap-up projects, and we would usually get a pretty good price from a contractor that had appetite now, but unfortunately without material availability, it's very challenging. Right? If you drive out on County State Aid Highway 1, or you may have seen the press release, but the fence is going in above the soil nail walls. That's being constructed now. It'll be continuing for another week or two. And federal funding applications. I didn't have this on my agenda, but wanted to share the news. We were awarded federal funds for several projects that we'll be involved with. CASA 16, the full depth reclamation from Minnesota Highway 22 to the Le Sueur River, so south of the piece we're reconstructing this year. We received $1,995,000 in 2027 federal ATP funds. So that'll cover about 80% of the project cost.
Well,
On County State Aid Highway 29, I thought I had lost on that one, but their additional funding became available for bridge replacement. So we're getting $750,000 in 2024 and 2025 STP federal bridge on system funds. So that was a huge win because that's a fairly significantly expensive bridge, and we're eligible for 80% replacement cost for that project as well. So the downside is it federalizes a bridge replacement, which gives us more hoops to jump through, but we're starting the federal documentation as we wrap up the plan set. And then additionally, I just received most of these this morning. Eagle Lake was awarded $475,982 of transportation alternative funds for their trail project, including the South Agency Trail segment for 2027. So they and the county will have to be the agency that delivers that project from a contractual standpoint. However, I would anticipate the city and their consultant engineer will do most of the legwork on it. We'll have a cost share, 50% of the remaining balance of the trail cost. So we're excited to see those federal funds. And really, I want to emphasize, I think this is a much better and more practical way that the IIJA money is being able to be implemented when it gets passed down through the ATP and it can get sent to the locals and more equitably shared around the state. This didn't require a terribly complex, it was a competitive application, but these are far from being nearly as complex as some of the other ones. When you look at the build or infra grants that are these massive grants, this is a good way to put the IIJA federal infrastructure dollars to work in the rural parts of the county. Thanks. County Transportation Plan, there's been public outreach underway. In addition, we have meetings next week. We'll be presenting to the mayors and clerks. So we had a good meeting with the townships, and we'll see next week. And we've also got, I believe, some public outreach available online, as was discussed at the mayors and clerks meeting, or I'm sorry, the township officers meeting. So we're trying to get that feedback from those rural parts of Blue Earth County. And it's kind of hard during the meetings, but really I think our hope is, even if we don't get a tremendous amount of feedback during the meetings, you plant that seed that it's out there, and as they think about it over the coming weeks, they're able to go online and provide additional feedback to us. Maintenance crews have been busy. As we know, we're still battling ice and snow, or we were still battling ice and snow up until through the weekend. And stockpiling for continued winter operations, and then trying to plan ahead, get ready for summer operations, chip seal aggregates, things like that. So we're already starting to think about that as soon as the weather turns. I've provided a handout for the 2023 Highway User Tax Distribution Fund for local roads and bridges. As you know, we get a copy of this every year. This includes a breakdown of the HUTDF, about $909 million of the HUTDF comes from fuel tax revenues. $840 million comes from license fees on the far left. Motor vehicle sales tax, $615 million, and then auto parts sales tax and other sources of about $208 million, for a total of $2,573 million. That gets subdivided as broken out. I won't go into tremendous detail. What really matters to us is the county stated highway distribution, which is $686 million. This is down from last year, as we discussed, about 2.5%, but we are hopeful as we watch legislative topics arise that there will be some funding to at least make us whole with what we were at last year. It may not get us caught up with construction inflation that we're observing, or maintenance of inflation as well, but that's the breakdown. So if you ever have folks that have questions, this is very handy. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on it. Hearing none? All right. Well, if you got some later, I'd be more than happy to answer them then as well. The last item I have then is the Rapidan Dam Memorandum, dated March 30th, 2023. This is a summary of the recent activities since our previous update. On March 27th, BAR emailed numerous potentially interested agencies and parties a copy of the cover letter and draft application materials regarding the FERC licensure exemption surrender. Comments on the draft FERC license surrender are requested back by April 7th, 2023. Those additional comments received regarding the process would be added to the county's webpage under the Rapidan Dam. Our additional comments are also available to be submitted through the county webpage. Those comments will be added to the actual surrender application and submitted to the FERC as part of the documentation package. On March 21st, the county engineering staff conducted a site inspection, safety inspection with BAR in preparation of the dam safety surveillance and monitoring report, the DSSMR. And then on March 29th, 2023, BAR provided that draft DSSMR document for the county review and approval, and I submitted that to the FERC on March 30th, prior to the April 1st deadline. So that's been submitted and accepted by the FERC. So we're trying to keep up with our safety inspection and monitoring requirements while we still have the FERC licensure. We still appear to be on schedule as was previously provided to the board, with the surrender document drafts being sent out to those agencies as we discussed, and then BAR collecting those in April to prepare that draft surrender application. And again, as we know, once that's submitted to the FERC, we'll have a better idea of the FERC's publishing of notice on the surrender application and initiating their 30-day comment period, as well as the environmental documents and coordination with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Any questions at this point? I've got some questions on back on federal funding for parks and stuff, but I can talk to you later about that.
Okay. Absolutely. All right, well, thank you for your time today.
No question, but appreciate, one, it was nice to be able to catch all the township officers and clerks at that, but thank you for also kind of giving that update on Rapidan Dam. That wasn't on the agenda, but we had all those there, and
That's
for the technical things, I appreciated that.
It was very interesting to get their feedback and to get the bigger collective county, especially out in the rural parts, what their opinion of which direction the county should go. So I thought that was fairly telling.
Yep, it was good information. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, Ryan.
And I think before we go on break, I think we're going to ask our county attorney to step up and give up his monthly report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. The report speaks for itself. Just a couple of things that may be of interest. We continue to be busy. The Drug Task Force just arrested 3 more people yesterday. Another third-degree murder case that they've been investigating for quite some time. Megan Gaudette-Coryell is here to address you in an upcoming closed session regarding some of the things that we've been working on. We will be meeting with Mr. Tilgus later this week on another project that we'll have coming down the pike, it seems, at this point in time. From a staffing issue, as of yesterday, we're finally full staff for the first time since June of last year. The state court started a few months ago implementing their Mendes system, which we have to file all of our exhibits and whatnot. This has turned into another situation where, a few years ago, when all the complaints went online, and we basically ended up doing what most of court administration's data entry for that, which it takes more time for us to do. But with this Mendes system, we have to, with the upcoming audio and video, the sheriff's office will be going to body-worn cameras here in the near future. The Mankato Department of Public Safety did a couple months ago. We have some audio and a case coming up that it will take us weeks to upload all this audio and video into their system. So from a timing standpoint, there's a lot going around behind the scenes that a lot of people don't realize and know about. I was in a trial last week for 4 days, and just to upload a 24-minute clip takes a couple hours, and I don't understand why. There's some extensions that aren't compatible, so we continue to work through some of those things, but it's been an interesting ride, let's just put it that way. So unless anybody has any specific questions, I know you've got a lot on your plate today, I'll just sit that back down.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pat.
All right, the next agenda item is a motion to go into closed session to discuss the case of Blue Earth County versus Robert W. Lawrence Construction and the county's options in the litigation. The open meeting law Minnesota statute section 13D.05 in subdivision 3B allows the Board of Commissioners to close a meeting for the following purposes, among others, to discuss the pending litigation under the attorney-client privilege. Staff are asking the board to close the meeting to meet with its attorney regarding the county's options for settlement in the case of Blue Earth County versus Robert W. Lorenz. There is a need for absolute confidentiality because the county's position would be compromised if such discussions took place in public and could be overheard by the other party. Accordingly, pursuant to the law I have stated, I will hereby entertain a motion that this meeting be closed pursuant to the attorney-client privilege.
So moved.
I'll second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. And we will go into a closed meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I would suggest we move to the fireplace room for the closed hearing.
All right. We are back from our closed session, and we have a mediated settlement agreement, and we're looking for a motion for the Blue Earth County versus Robert W. Lorenz construction.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Yes.
Mr. Chair, as the representative of the board through this mediation, this was my first mediation. I'll have to be transparent on that. It was 7 hours and 15 minutes. It was one where both sides worked back and forth, and I believe we've came to a good agreement, an agreement that we can use as a tool to move forward, and I would urge and ask the board to support this motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same? And that passes. Thank you very much. We will go on to our administration. Bob?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, the first item is the county board minutes for March 21st of this year.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same? Thank you, it passes.
Next are the bills for the 2 weeks indicated.
I'll move the bills.
Second.
Got a motion and a second on the bills. Any discussion on the bills? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed the same? Thank you.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 9 in your packet is the Human Resources agenda. Just have informational items for the board today. We have filled a number of positions, so you'll see we've been very active in our Human Resources area again the last couple of weeks, starting with filling a clerical specialist in our Human Services Department, a transport officer in the Sheriff's Office, a correctional officer in the jail, a community corrections supervisor in our community corrections department, filled a social worker in our children's mental health area of human services, an IT support assistant in our IT department, and then we had 3 deputy sheriffs that were hired. Then moving down to the bottom of that page, a social worker in our child protection area and human services. Then a landfill services coordinator as part of our revamping of the operations of the Ponderosa landfill. Then we move into a promotion of an assistant county attorney 1 to an assistant county attorney 2 in our county attorney's office. And then we did have one resignation of a 911 telecommunicator, and so we've initiated recruitment to refill that position. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have on any of those items. All right. Item number 10 in your packet then is a resolution authorizing the county administrator to execute a real estate purchase agreement for the purchase of land for the proposed public works facility. This is a resolution that was similar to one that was done previously when we pursued a different parcel. The particular parcel that this relates to is a 67.4 acre parcel on the northeast corner of County Road 16 and County Road 90 in Mankato Township. We have reached a verbal agreement with the owners in an amount of $2.5 million for this parcel. And so seeking board approval today of this resolution granting the county administrator authority that when we work through the rest of the purchase agreement conditions and components that I would be able to sign that agreement on behalf of the county.
Looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Onward and upward.
All in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed the same. Thank you very much.
All right, item number 11 in your packet then is an addendum to our agreement with Minnesota Extension. Previously, our budget had included $6,000 or so of funding for a summer intern to help with some of the summer activities in the Extension office. We have been unable to recruit an intern, and so Extension has requested that we modify that agreement to allow just the hiring of a kind of a summer staff person to provide that summer help. So bringing it here for the board's consideration today.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed the same. Thank you very much. That passes. All right. Commissioner reports on committees. We're going to start with Kip.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't have a whole lot of stuff the last couple of weeks, but I did get together with our Emergency Communication Board for the Southeast region, or South Central region, our own committee actually, and we have not met since 2020 or something in person. We've had several meetings apart, so it was nice to get together and see some new faces after the election, but kind of got everybody spooled up, had a few things to approve and get through for some local funding. And Brenda and Darren and Tim Moore all do a great job on that committee. And then that afternoon we had a emergency management meeting with Mark Griffith over in Eagle Lake. Everything's going really well there. They're trying to get some permanent funding for us so we can be a little more stable in what's going on. But they are doing really well right now and getting a lot of programs done, and the child safety seat program is going really well over there. They've been installing a lot of safety seats. So I know we talked about Phil one time about having a program here, so if that's something we want to move around, I think we should talk with Sheila over there. She got a pretty good sized grant to help deal with that. Then I was at a County Ditch 26 abandonment hearing for an outlet, which we're not too excited about that because it does serve another part of a ditch, so it creates some problems. And the biggest reason that I can see and understand is that they don't like the trees. Kevin was at the meeting also, but they don't want us to clear the trees, and that's part of our policy, and it's state policy apparently. So we'll be working through that as the days go on. And then I was on one of my 403 governance calls again, talking about the governance language for the statewide emergency communication board. And yesterday I had an MRCI meeting, and our new CEO was there. Casey came in from Iowa. He is commuting back and forth right now, but has been there for about 2 weeks and had his first board meeting with the board yesterday. That brings me to today, Mr. Chair.
All right, Mark.
Okay, Mr. Chair, let's see, on March 28th, Tuesday, I guess I would call it really the last meeting of our Airports Commission. The city has changed direction with that, and I guess all the people there that have been on it for a long time, I think they're still going to try to get together, but they'll still have some staff, maybe they can call on it, but it's, they're changing directions how they do that, the city, and so I guess it's sort of it's not an official meeting anymore. Then along with all the four of us, we went up to the AMC Leadership Summit, the board of directors up north a little bit, from the 29th through the 31st, and that was the first time I ever went to one like that, and it was very good. There was gentleman that kind of put things together, a little bit of magic, a lot of different approaches to get people thinking a little differently, and that was really good. It was good with all the interaction with all the members, and then they'd have a board of directors in on the last day, Friday, and that was for District 7 here, currently the director of that, and also all the members of those groups were there, and we kind of cut it off a little bit because of the weather. But it was actually a very good summit. I was glad that it came. And the companionship going up and back, the chair was good. And Patty on the way up, so yeah, it's great.
Thank you. Kevin.
Since our March 21st board meeting that afternoon, I attended the Green Seam Ag Day event from here in town on the 22nd. As I mentioned earlier, was the mediation session. 23rd, I attended the Blue Earth County Township officers and clerks meeting. On the 24th, we had 3 landowner meetings, CD 56, 79, and 26, as Kip has mentioned that afternoon. At 5 o'clock, we held our Le Sueur River One Watershed, One Plan hearing. We're through the 60-day process. We received 59 comments, written comments. Those have been incorporated at the hearing. We had probably 30 or so people at the hearing. Those have been incorporated, and shortly we will see a plan, a draft plan, come before all 8 units of government, the 4 county boards and the 4 SWCD boards. So we'll see that draft plan shortly. The 27th, participated in the AMC legislative update call, and then also attended the Rural Minnesota Energy Board in Slayton. AMC Leadership Conference has been mentioned. I was at that, as well as the Banco annual meeting on Saturday, and then this morning we had our JD 15 meeting. Calls and correspondence have been primarily on our county's land split requirements, some MFS concerns, the short-term rental ordinance, drainage, and our CUP process. That ends my report.
Thank you. Patty.
Alrighty, my first meeting after the board meeting last week was with Community Ed, and then the township meeting, the AMC Ledge Call, AMC Leadership Conference, and Benco. That was my 2 weeks.
All right. For mine, after the last board meeting, I had a Transportation Alliance Board of Directors meeting. I also attended the township meeting. I had a AMC Ledge call. And I think both myself, Patty, and Kevin, you were on there too? Yeah. And then, of course, the AMC Leadership Summit, I was impressed with the speaker that kept us engaged for 3 days, and thought it was a very good summit. Then we ended that, myself and Mark ended that with the Board of Directors meeting. Got home before the snow started falling, so that was good. Even though we went through some rain and possible some hail that hit us, but it wasn't too bad. Let's see, yesterday I had my review of this board meeting with Bob, and that's the end of mine. I do want to state that this afternoon from 4 to 6, Greater Mankato Growth Business After Hours is going to be at TDS up at the Madison East Shopping Center. And I would ask if folks would like to stop up there and see what TDS is all about and show support through Greater Mankato Growth.
Madison East, huh? Okay.
Madison East. Yeah, Madison East Shopping Center. It's not quite a shopping center anymore, but they got some places to stop. But anyway, that's the end of my report, and thank you very much.
I move to recess.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, the same. And we are recessed.
Good job, Mr. Chair. You had a busy day today.